All right, we are live. Welcome to Akin Merino Network. Let me know that you're out there. We are live now on Akin Merino Network. We should be live on LinkedIn. We should be live and YouTube and live here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Our topic today is forgiveness and self-betrayal. Forgiveness and self-betrayal. It is something that people, grapple with. Let's just make sure that everyone is connected. So let me, because Facebook, it looks like you're not connected yet. So let's make sure that you are. You are you are not connected, Facebook. And I'm not really sure how to help you at this point. So we might just move on without Facebook. All right. Okay. All right. So here we go. Welcome, welcome against forgiveness without self-betrayal. This is such an important topic to have forgiveness without self-betrayal. I hope that those of you who have struggled with yourselves about, if I forgive this person, does that mean that I'm betraying myself? This is for you. This conversation today is for you. um I forgive you, but I don't know how to trust you again. I forgive you, but I cannot look you in the face again. But does forgiveness really mean that we forget? Does forgiveness mean that we no longer um hold any kind of bitterness towards that person? Yes. But does forgiveness mean that we have to hold you and keep you in the same circle that you belonged to before? No. So let's talk about that. Let's have this conversation today. Have you ever felt caught between wanting peace and wanting to protect yourself? You want peace, you want everything to be okay, but you also want to protect yourself. So I want to start with a confession. For a long time, many of us were taught, especially from the Christian world, we were taught about that forgiveness means acting as if nothing has happened. Oh, I forgive you, or I forgive you, like nothing has happened. Sometimes we even thought it meant staying quiet. I actually thought that. I thought it meant staying quiet, shrinking yourself so that the other person stays comfortable. Some of us even learned this early in church. Forgive and forget. How many of you have heard that frame? Forgive and forget. Let me hear you in the chat if you're with me. We've learned it from the church, we learned it at home. Some of us also learned it in the culture that we belong to. This culture that rewards the people, but young people say, oh, just let it go. Just let it go. And you just letting it go, and it looks like you're really punishing the person who has been injured. How can you let it go when you still have questions? How can you let it go when your mind is in turmoil? So today I want to ask you something harder than, have you forgiven them? Today I want to ask, has your forgiveness ever cost you yourself? Has your forgiveness ever cost you yourself? Your own self, your own dignity, your own sense of self? So sometimes it's going to cost. Forgiveness will cost you your silence. It will cost you your safety, your voice, your dignity, your peace. Look, if you are that person, let me hear it in the chat. Do you agree with what I'm talking about? By the end of our conversation today, you'll leave with a different definition of forgiveness. One that doesn't ask you to abandon yourself to give someone else peace. I don't even know where that came from. I mean, we know it's love your neighbor as yourself, not more than yourself. So I'm not sure where this old doctrine or idea that you have to suffer so that the other person can be forgiven. There are three things that we keep confusing. The three things that we keep confusing, and I'm going to talk about them today. We're going to talk about forgiveness, reconciliation, and trust. Forgiveness, reconciliation, and trust. They are not the same thing. Look, in almost any forgiveness conversation, we treat forgiveness, reconciliation, and trust as if they're the same. They are not. They are not. They answer three completely different questions. And so I want to talk about them today because somebody needs to hear this. Forgiveness answers, what do I do when the resentment I'm carrying is too much? What do I do with that resentment? That's the question forgiveness answers. What do I do with this overwhelming bitterness or resentment that I'm carrying? Reconciliation, on the other hand, answers, do we rebuild a relationship? That's reconciliation, reconcile. Do we rebuild relationship? Is this relationship meant to be rebuilt? Number three, trust. And trust is, what does this person get access to again? I wish those of you on Facebook would be able to participate in this. I'm not sure why you're unable to participate. I don't know. So I'm sorry. We will reshare it when we're done. So there is forgiveness. Forgiveness answers the question, what do I do with the bitterness? What do I do with the resentment? Reconciliation says, do I rebuild this relationship? What do I do with this relationship? And then number three is trust. It answers, what does this person get access to? And how much access am I going to give it to them? And how fast am I going to give it to them? So those things are different. You can do the first without doing the second or the third. So you can forgive somebody without reconciling with them and without trusting them again. But you can still forgive them. Is this making sense? So you can forgive a person and never reconcile with them. You can forgive your business partner. You can reconcile your friendship and still never hand over the company checkbook again. That's trust. So you can forgive and not reconcile and not trust. Or you can also forgive and reconcile but not trust. Do you see what I'm saying? And you can do all three. You can forgive, you can reconcile, and you can trust again. None of that is unfinished forgiveness, people. Just because you don't trust somebody again or just because you don't reconcile with them doesn't mean that forgiveness has not happened. Does this make sense? That's what I want to share with you today. It is important. So you can forgive somebody and not reconcile and not trust them again. Oh, so we will say, oh, John, who really hurt me. So, John, I forgive you, John. But when I look at the gravity of what John did, I want to see, do I want to reconcile with John? It could be John, Susie, Taiwo, whoever. I don't want to reconcile with John. I want to forgive, but I want to keep John as arm's length. Or I could say, I'm going to reconcile. I'm going to add you back into my circle, but it doesn't mean I'm going to trust you. anymore. But either you can forgive and not do the last two, or you can forgive and choose whichever one you want. But either way, you've already forgiven. All right? So let's look at two layers of forgiveness today. There are two layers, and if you've been to any of my workshops, we've talked about this. So there is what we call a decisional forgiveness. Okay? Decisional forgiveness. It means that I will not organize my life around punishing this person. I have made that decision. I refuse to organize my life around punishing this person. I don't want revenge. I'm not going to live my life in bitterness. I make a decision that this person, I am going to grant them pardon. I am going to forgive them. Okay, I'm going to forgive them because I'm not going to expend energy trying to punish them. That's a decisional forgiveness, right? And then you have the emotional forgiveness. This is what happens internally. This is what happens in your body and mind network over time. Okay? It is the time when you are forgiving somebody emotionally, you no longer have any triggers. You can talk about them and it doesn't wound you. Is this making sense? You talk about them, it doesn't wound you. The memory doesn't fill you with pain. You don't flinch about what's happened before. That's an emotional release. You've forgiven them. So you can have a decisional forgiveness and not an emotional forgiveness. So you literally can forgive somebody cognitively, but still hold on to the pain, which is the emotional one. The emotional forgiveness is a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you might need help with that. But emotional forgiveness is it's the processing of what happened with you. Okay. But a decisional forgiveness is when you just make a cognitive assent that this person, I no longer want to hold what they did against them. All right. Now, that can take time. You can make that decision within a year, or you can make that decision right now. Okay. If you make the decision and you're still waiting on the feeling, it doesn't mean that you have failed. You have still taken the step in the right direction. You are simply in the first stage of forgiveness. All right. And you, in order to get to the second stage, you might need some help. It might take time. You have to process it. All right. Your nervous system keeps its own account. It keeps its own ledger. All right. It separates from it, what is a mind decision than what is a cognitive decision. All right. So basically, um when you haven't processed the hurt, your nervous system is still waiting. It's still been hijacked. All right. It has still been hijacked. So you are still going to feel the pain. You're still going to feel all the stuff that they've said to you, even though cognitively you've said that you've forgiven them. But you can't even stand to be around them because you know that it still hurts. Just the fact that you forgive somebody doesn't mean that the pain goes away. You're not simply, let me just explain it this way. You're not simply a nervous system, though. You are a will. There's a will, and that will helps you in your decision. And then we can deal with the second layer later. Okay, so today I want to make sure that we are very clear about forgiveness when we just use this word. What does that mean? Where am I in the process? Where am I in the process? Am I in Am I in the first layer, which is the decisional forgiveness, or am I in the second layer, which is the emotional forgiveness? Or also, when we're looking at the three terms that we talked about, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, it doesn't mean trust, but those three terms sometimes are used synonymously, and they shouldn't be. And just because you haven't reconciled with somebody, just because you don't trust them anymore, doesn't mean that you have not forgiven them. I hope that helps someone today. So here is a trap that keep people stuck. Someone tells you, if you really forgive me, then you'll trust me. Huh? If you really forgive me, then you'll reconcile with me. That is manipulation. And a lot of the time it's dressed up in theology. Mhm. Trust is not the receipt for forgiveness. Let me say that again. Trust is not your receipt or the receipt for forgiveness. Trust is actually earned. You have to earn it. You have to earn it back. You have to show evidence. Is there evidence? You need proof. It comes over time. It comes through very consistent behavior. So yes, if somebody is trying to hold you ransom and say you need to forgive me, you need to forgive me, you need to talk to me, you need to make sure that we are back to where we used to be. No, that is manipulation. Forgiveness is something that you give freely. You give it. It is an honor to be able to forgive somebody. It's the kings in the kings and presidents, they grant pardon. They grant pardon to people who don't deserve it. So forgiveness is a seat of power that you are going to extend something to someone that they don't deserve. But trust and reconciliation, those are different. Trust is something that other person has to work for. They have to build it action by action. Okay? They have to build it. Nobody, not your mother, not your father, not your partner, not your ex, not your pastor, gets to collude those two things. No, you cannot. Trust and forgiveness. You cannot collapse it into two things and say this is what forgiveness is, because it is not. Let's stop manipulating people. We're not going to do that anymore. Is this making sense? So we are when we're talking about forgiveness, make sure you're writing you're chatting with me in the comments so that I can share your comments when they come in. Okay. This is important. Comments. Oh, I have to say it myself. Absolutely. Uh-huh. All right. So I see you. Well done. Look, um, there's this whole concept in African wisdom that talks about community and boundaries as if they they are opposed. Okay. um it's almost like you can't get hurt in the community, you shouldn't get hurt in that community, you shouldn't get, you have to take it you have to take it for the sake of the group, you have to take it for the sake of the whole. And then of course then we have all the secrets, we have all the stuff that's happening to us. All right. This is something that we need to talk about. Our own elders knew something way before psychology gave it a name, right? It's this whole idea that I am, I am, because we are. I I am. So I am somebody. My own pain matters. Okay. Desmond Tutu built this whole Truth and Reconciliation commission, after apartheid. And here is what people miss about Tutu's forgiveness, because we really have to take a look at this. He was very explicit. He said, Forgiveness is not condoning what happened. That is not, it's not condoning. You're not saying that what they did to you was okay. That's not it. He said forgiveness means that I accept what happened and I refuse to let it keep controlling my life. That's it. So it is a place of power. I accept it. I know this happened to me, but I refuse for it to control my life, because if I allow you to control my life, if I allow the person who raped me to control my life, if I allow the person who lied to me to control my life, if I allow the person who cheated on me to control my life, then I have given power back to them. They're still holding the reins of my life, the reins of my life. So they are able to pull me any way that they want, any direction that they want. So Tutu chose restorative justice over revenge. Not because harm didn't matter. No, but because he believed that the goal was to restore dignity to everyone. We all need our dignity. The wounded and the one who wounded, without pretending that the wound never happened. Does that make sense? We have to restore people. And the way we restore the person who wounded is about truth telling. We have to tell the truth. In our culture, too many secrets. We don't say what happened because we're thinking we don't want the family we don't want to talk about the family. We don't want the community to laugh at us. And so we don't tell the truth. We don't want the church to say anything. Did there was the case of the woman, a very famous musician in Nigeria, who was being abused by her husband and never told anyone at the church that she belonged to, or her friends, or anything. Do you understand? Truth matters. Truth matters. We need to know this. We need to tell the truth. And then people need to be accountable. People need to be accountable. People need to be held accountable for what they did. And we can offer, and Tutu offered reconciliation, but never forced it. Okay. In my Yoruba language, we talk about when you correct a child with the right hand, you draw them close again with the left, right? Both hands move. One is for correction, one is to pull them closer. Correction doesn't cancel love. Okay? Correction doesn't cancel love, and love doesn't cancel correction. Those two should go hand in hand. Those two goes hand in hand. So you can hold somebody accountable and still release the resentment. The two things, your two hands need to be working. You can hold somebody accountable and release the resentment, according to Tutu. You can also draw a boundary with your other hand and open your heart with your left. You can have a boundary and still open your heart. Is this making sense? So this idea, either culturally or theologically, that once you forgive somebody, then that means it's a do-over. No to the no to the no. No. We need both hands, like that Yoruba proverb. One hand without the other is imbalance. That isn't wisdom. So we always have to think about our actions when we're talking about forgiveness. Am I going to forgive this person and let them back in my life when they haven't demonstrated that there's any change? That would be foolish. That would be foolish. Don't do it. You know, you've heard people say, well, people cannot live together without friction. And, you always need to give reconciliation a chance. Either way, even in that saying, reconciliation is still not guaranteed. It says you can give it a chance, but a chance is not a demand. A chance is not a demand. A chance is not automatic. A chance is something that is earned inside a real process of truth telling, and there's an entry fee. Yes, it has to be earned. It has to be earned. Stop don't be a city without walls. Like everybody just has access to you. That's not how it works. Because a lot of us grew up, even me, myself, grew up hearing about forgiveness. You know, you're taught at Sunday school, you know it, that you have to forgive. So no matter what somebody's done to you, you say, oh, well, I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. And the hurt stays. Your nervous system takes tally. It knows that you've been wounded. Forgiveness is intentional. Forgiveness is a choice that you should give freely because it puts you in the seat of power. But another thing in forgiveness is, let's start with truth telling. Don't minimize what happened. Say what happened to you. Yes, that uncle touched me and that uncle raped me. I was sexually assaulted when I was 7 years old. I finally shared it with my father not too long ago. You have to say it. Say what happened. Say it out loud. Don't minimize it. Don't skip the truth so that everybody will be at peace. That's false peace. We don't want that. So we need to start talking. We need to start telling people what happened, when it happened, who did it to you, who wronged you. We need to speak up. We need to speak up. I love this generation. I was reading some on Facebook one time. This young girl was talking about what happened in her house when she was growing up. She's in her probably early 20s now, and she was bold enough to say yes. She named names. She had receipts. This happened. This person assaulted me. This person did this to me. When did we learn to skip telling the truth? When? When did we learn to go straight to peace? Yeah, because it's been beaten into you that you have to forgive, 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 forgive. And you thought forgiveness meant skip over all of the in between and go straight to saying, oh, you can come back into my life now. Oh, okay, you're okay now. I hope this helps you. I hope it helps you. Trust isn't automatic once you forgive. Let me tell you, come closer. Let me tell you what trust is. Trust is you recognizing a system of or a process of recognition. All right. Uh, Trust is earning the right to belong again. So I'll call it a pattern recognition system. And it's when you decide, I want to be in this person's life again. Okay. And so I am going to work on that. Trust is not built on empty promises. No. You need evidence, repeated evidence. You need evidence for trust. Is there evidence? What is your evidence? Where are the receipts? You need evidence for trust. Trust needs evidence. So if I'm in a relationship that I want to earn the trust back, I have to demonstrate that. So, and here are some ways you can earn back trust. Number one, ownership without defending yourself. Ownership without defense. So you who caused the harm, you can describe what you did, you don't minimize what you did, and you can explain what you did in a way that is not defensive. Okay? You have to own the harm. You have to own it. Own it in every conversation. Own it every time that is brought up. You have to own it. So ownership without defending yourself. Knowing that I cannot rebuild this until I own it. I have to own it. So you got to own it. Secondly, okay, another one before we go to this one that I want to say. Part of ownership, part of owning it is also seeing it from the other person's perspective. You need to see it from the other person's perspective. You need to understand, through compassionate lens, what that person went through because of you. Then you need to be consistent. Consistency over time matters. Now, watch this. There's some people who are very intense in the moment. Oh God, I'm going to make it up for you. I'm so sorry. They might cry, they might do everything. That's okay. But are they consistent over time? So one big grand gesture, they went and bought you roses, they went and bought your car, they went and did this for you. That is a single momentary gesture. That's not what you need. So a grand gesture does not equal trust. Are you with me? But what you need is maybe 20 small, boring, reliable action over months and months and months and months that shows that this person gets it. It shows that this person gets it. Trust is rebuilt in unglamorous repetition. It means that you showed up. It means that you're telling the truth, even if it's a small thing. It means that you're doing what that person needs to be done. That's how you build trust. And it has to be consistent. In your consistency is the power. In your consistency, be consistent. Be consistent. Do the small things. Then the next one is willingness to earn access and not demand it. You're not going to demand it. You're not going to say, I need access to your life now. I've done enough. Now, can you give me access? No. Healthy trust building looks like somebody accepting to move slower. They're not overloading you. They're not, in your space all the time. They understand that you're giving them the benefit of doubt, right? Or you might decide not to give them the benefit of doubt, and they still don't punish you for that pace. They still don't punish you for not believing them. They don't punish you for how you're feeling, because they know that they messed up. They know that they messed up. That's what willingness looks like. That's what willingness looks like. So we've talked about owning or ownership without defense. You own it. You own what you did, but you're able to say exactly what you did. You're able to not minimize it. You don't explain it away. You don't get defensive. You can see it from the other person's point of view. We've talked about being consistent over time, people. Be consistent over time in the small things, not one big grand gesture. Number three, we talked about the willingness to earn that access and not demand it. Number four, you get to set the terms. And people skip this. Don't skip it. Okay? Don't skip it. You are allowed to decide what this person has access to again, and how much and how soon. You set the terms. This is not bitterness. You set the terms. Don't let people back so easily. They're going to wound you again because they haven't learned anything. So how do I put it? You need to have stewardship over your own life. Some people take care of their cars more than they take care of their own self or their property. You won't allow your 12-year-old or somebody who drove your car, even an adult who drove your car, had an accident or didn't or misused it. You're not immediately going to give them the car keys next time. They have to prove themselves. Then why do we not do that about our own lives? Yeah? Here's the piece that nobody says out loud. You are allowed to decide that trust doesn't get rebuilt at all. You can decide that. You can decide that I'm not going to trust this person again. Forgiveness does not obligate you to reopen the doors. Let that sink in, please. You can release the resentment and still keep the door closed. Both of those things can be true in the same body at the same time. All right? But not all of this, oh, I forgive them, oh, now and then they wound you again, and then they wound you again. That's not that's not what this is about. So I hope this has really helped you. Well, one more thing, because I know some of you are not thinking about, someone who hurt you. You're thinking about someone that you hurt, right? So you're thinking there's still a version of yourself that's punishing yourself. Okay, I hurt this person, so now I have to live forever punishing myself. So there's this whole idea. Let's talk about self-forgiveness. What does that look like? It follows the same rules as everything that I've talked about today. You don't have permission to repeat the harm. Okay? We want you to release the sentence you've been serving for years. It's enough. You've been serving this sentence for a long time, even after the debt was paid. You can hold yourself accountable and stop being your own warden. Let's stop that. Both hands have to move, like we talked about. Hold yourself accountable, but then let yourself out of this prison. Is this making sense? So you can decide to forgive, you can decide to reconcile, and you can decide to trust. Those are all decisions. So before I end, I want you to practice something for me. Get a pen and paper, or open your notes in your tablets. And I want you to do this. I'm going to give you 4 questions. Write your answer, not the answer that you think you should give. This making sense? I want you to name the person or the moment. Who or what are you carrying resentment towards right now? Who do you resent? Who has hurt you? who has hurt you. And I want you to separate the three decisions that we've talked about today. I choose to release this resentment because. Then complete it. I choose to release this resentment because. That's forgiveness. I will or I will not reconcile with this person because. Are you with me? And number 3, what I will or I will not give them access to again. Am I going to trust this person again? Am I going to give them access to my life again? Am I going to trust them again? And I also want you to check your motive. Are you forgiven because you want to keep the peace, or because you're ready to release the hurt for your own sake? If it's the first one, you should be honest about it, but that's not forgiveness yet. That's compliance. That's compliance. All right? And there's a lot of people who think they're forgiving because they're being compliant. That's not what we want. And then number 4, I want you to name one boundary. Write down one boundary you are keeping that you will not apologize for. I will not pick this person's calls. Don't apologize for it. Okay? I will not, whatever the boundary is, write it down and don't apologize for it. I'm going to close. Forgiveness is not amnesia. Forgiveness is not silence. Forgiveness is not reopening every door that was ever closed to you or closed on you. No, that's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is the decision to stop carrying somebody else's weight inside your own body. Reconciliation is a separate offer. It's not an obligation. Trust is currency, and they have to earn that through evidence. And you get to set the terms of employment. So we're going to use both hands. That's wisdom. Trust first, peace after. Never the other way around. So you are allowed to forgive somebody and still lock the door. You are allowed to forgive and still lock the door. You're allowed to forgive and still ask questions. You are allowed to forgive and say, not yet, not like that, or never again. That's not unforgiveness. That's wholeness. That's common sense. That's wisdom. So for this AMN conversation, I want you to take home something. Go back to the boundary you wrote about today and say it, repeat it to somebody, let somebody hear it and hold it without apologizing for it. That's the work. This is practice. It's not about how you feel. All right? So live, love, and share. I'll see you next time. Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining me. Excellent, excellent. We're going to end this.